Hey guys, kind of here. So welcome to environmental science. So today we're just going to kind of give you a little overview, get you started thinking about the environment and the purpose of this class. And then we'll really jump into more of the content as we go ahead and continue on with the course. So today is called A Fable for Tomorrow. Now, this is the title taken from the opening chapter to Rachel Carson's book, A Silent Spring. And so we'll get to that a little bit more at the end of today's lecture. But I wanted to go ahead and jump in, get started, and get you guys thinking about why you're here and what we're hoping to get out of this course as we go through. So let's start with our essential questions. Each day we'll go ahead and have essential questions so you kind of have an idea of some of the big concepts that you should know by the time you're done with the notes. Today, number one, how can I best use the environmental science textbook? It'd be nice if we could do this in person, but we're going to look at the digital version here. Number two, what is a science notebook and how can it help me organize and prepared for learning? Now, I want you to think about this like your notes. Okay, putting all your notes together as a science notebook. If you keep it all together in a notebook, you have a science notebook that's going to allow you to keep together your thoughts, your ideas, the connections that you've made, any notes or new things that you've learned as you go through. And then number three, what is a nature journal and how can it help me connect with the world around me? Because that's really what this course is about. It is trying to help you make a connection to the world around you so you care about the world and can try and take the steps to go ahead and make it a better place moving forward. All right, so the first thing I'd like you to go ahead and do today is start thinking about, well, what does environmental science mean? Okay. When you think about environmental science, what words come to mind? Just take a piece of paper somewhere and write down the first 10 words that come to mind when you think of environmental science. Then I want you to go ahead and type those 10 words into the private comments for this post and then send it to me. Remember, I don't want you to agonize over this. We want the first 10 words that come to your mind. And then I'm going to be making a word cloud to show the words that came up the most often. So please try and do this as soon as you can so we can go ahead and get all these words together and go ahead and create this word cloud. All right, what programs do we at Willamette High School have that are sustainable? Turns out that we're seeing a greening of American schools. Many schools across the United States are taking sustainability more and more seriously. They're including green building design, making it more environmentally friendly to the environment, waste recycling and repurposing. Okay? They have a curriculum that include environmental science courses and sustainability themes to help keep students aware of the world around them and the impact that they have on that world around them. So, what other ways are people and businesses increasing energy efficiency, reducing environmental impact? And I want you to start with Willamette. Think about what programs we have that are sustainable. And then I want you to take a step backwards and think about how the city of Eugene is working towards sustainability. And then one more step back and how Lane County is working towards sustainability. Okay, so pause the video here, write down in your science notebook what your ideas are. What do we have at Willamette that's sustainable? How is Eugene working towards sustainability? What about Lane County? Okay, pause the video here, take down some ideas, and then we'll come back and we'll work some more. Okay, so hopefully it has some good ideas. And in class, we'll go ahead and talk about these a little bit during Zoom in class tomorrow. Okay, all right. So the next thing I want to go ahead and do is teach you how to use the physical textbook. Now, in person, we do the physical textbook. Here, we're going to go ahead and show you how to use the digital, but there are parts of the textbook that I want to go ahead and highlight for you. These include key questions for each chapter, core ideas and skills for each section, key terms for each section, assessments, sections and chapters, and case studies. This is a great resource. If what we're going over in class is not clicking or you need a little bit more time with it, we want to go ahead and allow you that time. And so this is a great way to use a physical textbook. So I'm going to take a minute here and go ahead and show you how to access that textbook a little bit more effectively and get signed up for it. So the first thing you want to do is go ahead and log into Google Classroom. Once you've done that, you'll come into the splash page here. The stream is where we're going to have all of our Zoom meetings, these types of things, as well as announcements for the class. But you're going to do all of your work from the classwork tab here. And you'll notice there's nothing there yet. I haven't assigned it, but you'll see that the course materials are here. So you'll see here we have the environmental science textbook. We'll click in here, and it has a registration URL and a course key. First thing I'd encourage you to do is go ahead and copy, Control C, that course key, and then follow the link either here or here to register for your course. Once this loads, you're going to go ahead and type in that course key. If you've copied it, Control V will paste it, and then click Next. Okay. Willamette High School Environmental Science, teacher Sean Kenna, that's what you want. And then you're going to go ahead and type in your student ID here. Okay. Once you've done that, you may log in and register for the course with your student portal. We don't really have that. We want you to go ahead and sign in here. So go ahead and include your student ID. It's important that you include this so things work well in terms of getting grades over to Home Access Center. So for this one, I'm going to go ahead and say 999999. Next, type in your name. You only have to do this the first time. Okay. And I'd encourage you to go ahead and use your username and password that are the same as your one for Bethel accounts, your Bethel Google. That'll just make things a lot easier for you. So. Okay, and you can have them generate passwords, but I would encourage you to just use the one you already have. Okay. And then go to the learning portal. Then when you go ahead and launch the course, you'll go ahead and see that your content is loading. And the left portion of it, I don't know how much we'll go ahead and use here as we go ahead and go through. The biggest thing I wanted you to have access to is the actual textbook itself. So you'll see that there are all these different activities. We're not as worried about that. What we're mostly interested in is going to be the full book here over on the right. You'll see these different things. My Notes is a great feature because you can actually highlight in the textbook and then it'll store it here and you can actually print those notes out to go ahead and use that to help you study. Glossary to look up keywords. Create a portfolio if there's work that you're proud of that you've done. Study Hub to work on vocabulary, things like this. There's a reader to read aloud to you. You can connect it to your Google Drive, so you can actually save My Notes to Google Drive if I'm not mistaken. Flashcards, so on and so forth. So I'm going to go ahead and click here on Full Book, so you can kind of see some of these key features that I wanted you to see. And I'm going to go ahead and start looking at a full book so that you can actually see these key pieces that I wanted you to have. If it'll load. Okay, now this works best in Chrome. I'm doing this here from Firefox. We may have to try this again if it's not going to work here in Firefox. There we go, full book. Let's try again. Okay. So here we go. The book has now opened up. And as you can see, this is a cover, and you can go ahead and do this navigation several different ways. There's a table of contents over here, which will take you to specific chapters and sections throughout the book. You can change the size of the font, or you can just jump to a particular page. If we assign a particular page, you can simply go to that particular spot. Okay. So what we're going to go ahead and take a look at today is if we go ahead and jump ahead to the environment to sustainability, which is kind of the section we're first working on. Um, when we go ahead and start, this is the overview for it. Okay. We're going to go to this first page here. Notice this section that says key questions. These are these ideas that we want you to be thinking about as you go through these sections. These are very similar to a lot of the essential questions that we'll have in the actual topics in the presentations or lectures that you'll go ahead and get. Okay. Once you get into these a little bit further, here we've got these connecting with people. These are going to be careers and looking at different people in the field. When you go ahead and get this is a case study. This is related to what we were just talking about. Notice you'll see the picture there. As you read, I'll have the key ideas. Okay, so core ideas and skills. When you're going through section 1-1, these are the key things it wants you to have. Notice the key terms that are here as well. There may be other key terms that we supply you with that are not from the textbook, and so you can't use this as an exhaustive list, but these are definitely some of the key ideas that we want you to take away from, and these should be linked to the glossary, so if you click on one of them, you can go ahead and get a definition. Let's look at natural resource. There it goes. Okay, material or energy source in nature that's essential or useful to humans. And so you can use this to kind of navigate as you go through. The next thing, as you go ahead and start looking at this, is you can go through these different sections and jump through at any time accessing the table of contents. All right, let's get through this section. Oh, I probably should go ahead and show you. So if you want to highlight something, you can go ahead and do so. You can go ahead and add this to my notes. Oops, that's not how you do it. So you can highlight a section. Okay, and so it's not working really well right now, but you can go ahead and through here and you can get here to these assessments. These are a great way to check your knowledge if you go through a section so that you can go ahead and make sure you understood the big things that you were supposed to learn as you go through, and it has this at the end of the chapter as well that covers all the different sections as you go ahead and go through it. So between the case studies and the core ideas, key questions, key terms, there's a lot here to go ahead and help support you as you go ahead and work through the textbook. So this is a great resource. Feel free to go ahead and get back in here and use this to help you as you go ahead and get through. All right, let's go ahead and continue to move on. The next big thing is for this course, I'm going to expect you to have or keep a nature journal. Now, what format you use for this is totally up to you. I'm going to try and make Wednesdays less online and more out and about. Okay, you can use it as a day to catch up, I suppose, as well, but I really want you guys getting outside, enjoying nature. The weather's going to be getting warmer and really starting to appreciate nature around you, because that's really what's going to make you care enough to want to do something about saving it. So why do I want you to create a nature journal? Um, to value something, I feel like you must experience it. And so I want you to get out and experience it. And nature will also teach you to make observations and connections to the world around you, not just in nature, but just in your everyday life, being more observant. It's great. And then this gives you an offline creative outlet. As you go through this, I would like you to have some sort of, three ring, not three ring binder, but like a little spiral notebook or a little lab notebook type thing. And then you can go ahead and do drawings. You can go ahead and take notes. You can take samples of a leaf that fell off something or press a flower, these types of things. This makes it more artistic. And I want you to engage and have fun with it and take it with you wherever you go. And if you find something cool, use it. If you don't, I'm going to try and assign these at the beginning of the week, and they'll be due at the end of the week. We'll start with next week. But I intend Wednesday to be a day where you really get outside. Okay, we won't have much online stuff, and so I really want you to take Wednesday as a day to get outside. Use your time. It's asynchronous anyway, so get out there, see the world around you. Okay, so be creative if you want ideas and stuff. We'll talk more about this next week as you're setting up your nature journal, and then we'll go from there. The last thing for today is a Fable for Tomorrow. This is that title for the notes today, as well as the first chapter to the book by Rachel Carson, Silent Spring. So, Silent Spring began with Fable for Tomorrow, a true story using a composite of examples drawn from many real communities where the use of DDT had caused damage to wildlife, birds, bees, agricultural animals, domestic pets, and even humans. Carson used it as an introduction to a very scientifically complicated and already controversial subject. This fable made an indelible impression on readers and was used by critics to charge that Carson was actually a fiction writer and not a real scientist. So, what I'd like to do for you today is I'd like to read that first chapter to you so that you can kind of have it in mind. And as we go ahead and do so, I've included a painting here by Alexis Rockman. This painting is titled Evolution, and it was done in 1992, but it's from his 2010-2011 exhibit at the Smithsonian American Art Museum, and his exhibit was titled A Fable for Tomorrow, because he said he found a lot of his inspiration in nature and the world around him, and the threat to that from environmental causes, being inspired by people like Rachel Carson. So here we go. The following is the first chapter of the book Silent Spring by Rachel Carson, a true story using a composite of examples drawn from many real communities where the use of DDT had caused damage to wildlife, birds, bees, agricultural animals, domestic pets, and even humans. The book was published on September 27th, 1962. 1962, keep that date in mind. And in it, Carson accused the chemical industry of spreading disinformation and public officials of accepting the industry's marketing claims unquestioningly. It spurred a reversal in the United States national pesticide policy, led to a nationwide ban on DDT for agricultural uses, and helped to inspire an environmental movement that led to the creation of the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA. So here's the first chapter. There was once a town in the heart of America where all life seemed to live in harmony with its surroundings. The town lay in the midst of a checkerboard of prosperous farms, with fields of grain and hillsides of orchards where in spring, white clouds of bloom drifted above the green fields. In autumn, oak and maple and birch set up a blaze of color that flamed and flickered across a backdrop of pines. Then foxes barked in the hills and the deer silently crossed the fields, half hidden in the mists of the fall mornings. Along the roads, laurel, viburnum, and alder, great ferns and wildflowers delighted the traveler's eye through much of the year. Even in winter, the roadsides were places of beauty, where countless birds came to feed on the berries and on the seed heads of the dried weeds rising above the snow. The countryside was, in fact, famous for the abundance and variety of its bird life. And when the flood of migrants was pouring through in spring and fall, people traveled from great distances to observe them. Others came to fish the streams, which flowed clear and cold out of the hills and contained shady pools where trout lay. So it had been from the days many years ago when the first settlers raised their houses, sank their wells, and built their barns. Then a strange blight crept over the area, and everything began to change. Some evil spell had settled on the community. Mysterious maladies swept the flocks of chickens. The cattle and sheep sickened and died. Everywhere was a shadow of death. The farmers spoke of much illness among their families. In the town, the doctors had become more and more puzzled by new kinds of sickness appearing among their patients. There had been several sudden and unexplained deaths, not only among adults, but even among children, who would be stricken suddenly while at play and die within a few hours. There was a strange stillness. The birds, for example, where had they gone? Many people spoke of them, puzzled and disturbed. The feeding stations in the backyards were deserted. The few birds seen anywhere were moribund. They trembled violently and could not fly. It was a spring without voices. On the mornings that had once throbbed with the dawn chorus of robins, catbirds, doves, jays, wrens, and scores of other birds, voices now were no sound. Only silence lay over the fields and woods and marsh. On the farms, the hens brooded, but no chicks hatched. The farmers complained that they were unable to raise any pigs, the litters were small, and the young survived only for a few days. The apple trees were coming into bloom, but no bees droned among the blossoms, so there was no pollination, and there's no fruit. The roadsides, once so attractive, were now lined with browned and withered vegetation as though swept by fire. These, too, were silent, deserted by all living things. Even the streams were now lifeless. Anglers no longer visited them, for all the fish had died. In the gutters, under the eaves, and between the shingles of the roofs, a white granular powder still showed a few patches. Some weeks before it had fallen like snow upon the roofs and lawns, the fields and streams. No witchcraft, no enemy action had silenced the rebirth of new life in this stricken world. The people had done it themselves. This town does not actually exist, but it might easily have 1,000 counterparts in America or elsewhere in the world. I know of no community that has experienced all the misfortunes I describe, yet every one of these disasters has actually happened somewhere, and many real communities have already suffered a substantial number of them. A grim specter has crept upon us almost unnoticed, and this imagined tragedy may easily become a stark reality we all shall know. What has already silenced the voices of spring in countless American towns. Now, as you're listening to this, I would like you to kind of think about, why do you think Carson leaves the town and plague unidentified, doesn't talk about a specific town name, or doesn't talk about a specific plague? What is the purpose of the paragraph starting on the farms and ending with like snow upon the roof and lawns, the fields and streams? Why does Carson start a nonfiction book with a fiction or fictional opening chapter? So I'll go ahead and put a copy of this as a PDF attached to these notes, and I'd like you to go ahead and think about that, and we can discuss in tomorrow's class. All right, guys, stay healthy, stay safe, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.